have it, you know, a little funny. All right, so I have this beautiful leather lambskin, which is rare because it is, right? It's yummy. It's buttery. You can see it's baby, I mean, small skins, right? Sold panels and lambs, and so is this lamb. And this used to be this skirt. And then for years and years I never wore it. It was just too heavy on the bottom, too much skirt on the bottom with all this fullness. I mean, it's beautiful to waist. I didn't want to, so I cut it off and I made it a gather skirt, and I can use it for this class. And then the other half I can use for the other class we're gonna do. So there's two skirts out of one. No? You're not impressed? Somebody cares?
I think it's impressed. So this, it was just a very long skirt.
Yes,
and a big
it's okay. I recycle everything if I can. So, but if you look at my little friend here, none of these things move. Nothing rolls around here. They're supposed to roll. Okay. So this is what we're looking at. We have this fullness, this amount of this volume of fabric that we bring in. We reduce it by putting in gather stitches. There's different ways. We could pleat it. We could fold the fabric. Here we're just bunching it up like we do maybe a cafe curtain would be gathered up. And the principles are the same, found here on page 247. Let me read a little bit, and then you've got a little chart down here kind of giving you an illustration of what these gathers look like with these ratios above, like 1 to 1.5, okay? So for 1 inch, you need 1.5 inches. Okay, so now that people are more aware of thread counts and all this information, this makes more sense. It's just more density of fabric in a smaller space. What they talk about here are the 2 factors should be considered before computing the amount of fullness desired. Fabric weight. Fabric weight, absolutely, but also fabric amount. If I have a narrow fabric or I have some kind of fabric limitations, gathered skirts is not what I want to be making. Nor do I want to be making pleats. Okay, if you're going to put cheap pleats in, don't bother. Find something else to make out of your fabric. If you've got extra fabric, a nice big chunk of thing, and you got it for free, then go to town and start pleating it, because you're going to need a lot of fabric, okay? So when your fabric is an issue, whether it's weight, yes, weight is important. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Usually we do these kinds of gathers with lightweight fabrics, chiffons, or bridal kinds of things, the tulle, all those big ball gowny, poofy kinds of things, okay? Because they will poof. Generally speaking, when we take the fabric and the location it starts to poof is not a happy place for a lot of women. The dirndl skirt, which we talk about on this page, which is really just a rectangular piece of fabric gathered up, is one of the most unflattering things for women, okay? Women don't like fullness and poofiness around their waist, okay? It works okay for bridal wear because it just hides everything. It just takes off and we don't see anything else. But when the legs are kind of down there, it gives me sort of a dowdy, unsophisticated technique or approach to handling fullness, I think. I think this is one of the primitive, the beginnings of dealing with the fullness. I think we have better ways of handling that and better skirts to execute and flatter the female form. So here, we'll just have a peek at this. We're not really going to do it, but we are going to think about understanding that there are some ratios, and really the ones that work the best. If if you think of drapery, you need 3 for 1. 3 times the width or the fullness for 1 finished panel, okay? And then they'll be pinch pleated in between or whatever, and it's the same kind of thinking. Also, like the drapery, we'll do that 3 to 1 we'll do for the sheers or the lightweight fabrics. So that thinking applies also to my garments. When I have very soft, very sheer fabrics, I can put more gathers in it. The fabric will allow me to gather it. Of course, me, I have to find the most difficult and stupid things to try to gather. Because, you know, pulling this and with the thread, you know, you need special machine, you need special threads, you need, Anyway, and I didn't want to waste any of that fabric to make the waistband, so I went out and found some kind of makeshift little thing there, okay? So when you see me wearing this, you'll say, oh, that's nice. And you don't have to know all the dirty details. But here...
What is the fullness for the skirt? What is the fullness for this skirt?
What do you think?
I'm guessing 1.5.
At least, I would say 2.
Okay.
And where you can figure that out is at the bottom. And that's what we'll measure. There's at least 2 to 1. And in the leather, it looks okay. The problem, if you go over here 1.5, even 2 for most things, they will look like a mistake. You don't have enough fabric there to make it look like rich gathers, okay? And I will bring you different fabrics illustrating the gathers. Tonight you've got all the leathers. It just turned out that way because some of the other pieces I use are at other locations and so forth. Let's let that sink in. Okay, I never finished here. The 2 points they're trying to make here, the fabric weight, and number 2, the cost. Okay, so you're going to need a lot of fabric, is what they're saying in essence. Okay, and that's how I think the tulle ball gown was invented. A cheap way to give me that very full, very luxurious weight. Okay, that shape. So I don't really do these. All I would do, like I said, would be to have a rectangular piece of fabric. How do I start when calculating these kinds of things?
The hip measurement?
Well, I need the end result. I need the finished. Whether, if this skirt is going to sit on the waist, then I need that waist measurement. Then I'm going to multiply that by 3. And then I'm going to know how much fabric I need, okay? So you do have to know. So when we add in gathers later on, it's a bit of a trick. I'll catch you. Hold on a minute. Off we go to add in and cut and paste and flare and do all these things. However, we have to stop and measure what our original measurement is. And then so we can multiply it by 3 or 4, whatever it is. And to see, it ends up, sometimes in the book they don't actually do what they say they're doing. So they won't have put in enough slashing and spreading to actually achieve that ratio of gathers. Okay, so I'll highlight that to you so you don't fall into that trap. What I really want to focus on this evening is to take a look at our new section of skirts. That wraps up the added fullness. I wore a little flared skirt for you this evening, and I changed my whole schedule because I thought, oh yeah, my God, we're doing flared skirts. We did flare skirt, but there's another one that we didn't do. This one, they called it basic flared, so I don't know what the heck this one. This was flared, A-line. And then if you turn the page, they've closed both these darts, and we have, what's this one? A basic flared skirt. What? Tell me.
Okay. I thought like ours was an A-line flare,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
So isn't this just more flared?
Yes. That's why we're not doing it. I'm
Okay.
talking to you about it,
Okay.
so you know when you look in the book what's what.
Okay,
Again,
okay.
there is a progression, so they just add more instead of closing the one.
Yeah.
I think, and I picked and choose. I did the A-line because it's important to learn what to do when the darts are not the same, front and back, and that flare is unequal or unbalanced, and then how to handle it in the darting and all that stuff. With this one here, you're going to close both of these darts, and you'll use that full amount. And what it gives you is something that looks like this. So this kind of a shape, a little more, okay? So there's some in here, and there's some in there. And you can literally see it like I said. And you can really see it on this one because it's a bit of a, you know, structured fabric, and it hangs where I put it, okay? What we're gonna do today is keep going in the chapter, and then they do more added fullness, added flare, sorry. It's just a bit too much flare for my liking. Once you learn the technique, that's it, okay? And what you're gonna learn today is about gores, and taking these skirts and dividing them vertically. We kind of sort of did that already with our slashing and everything. We started to look at the vertical information available on our skirts. We use those working lines that extended down from our darts, and we're learning how to use that. We're now going to take those today and actually make them into seams, okay? And if you look closely, leather is kind of notorious for its seaming because the skins come from animals. Sorry, that's the long and the short of it. And animals are only so big, and so it's very expensive to have skins that are big. This one is relatively big for a lamb skin, but you'll see that they subdivide things often, okay? And they'll put in lots of little seaming. It's really using up all their scraps, joining it, edge stitching it, like top stitching it, and making it look like a plan. So when you have a pair of boots or something in your hand, and one's $200 and one's $500, and you say, you know, why? Well, if you say that, then you should buy the $200 boots. If you know the difference and you can feel that the leather and the amount of pieces found are less, that's what you're paying for. For example, back in the day with the hairstyles, we used to do all the shows. And they were all with the leather pants. Now, a full skin of a pant without a seam in it was 3 times as much as one that had that seam across the knee. Remember? And then they would do funny shapes and they got crazy. But leather's a good example of that because we're limited. We can't have yards and yards of fabric, okay? These are skins and they're animals and they need a lot of processing to make them ready to be used, okay? What was my point there? I don't know anymore.
Because they're small and so.
Yeah, and it's a good example of subdividing things. And it helps us understand, or even to know, is it okay to do these kinds of things, okay? What I learned in bridal, where we had these exuberant trains or huge skirts, and really, how did they make that work? When fabric is only going to be 60 inches wide, how does that all play out, okay? In the logistics, in the pattern, in the laying out, in the cutting. And again, they have adapted this way of taking pieces that are typically drafted a certain way, like a half circle skirt, or an A-line skirt, or a flared skirt, or whatever, and then sticking the seam in there and subdividing it and making a lesser expensive garment, but making it look full and luxurious and giving the client that same vision without compromising the integrity of the style and the shape, but finding ways to make it sort of the upscale version, and then how do we do it the other direction? Where do we cut costs to do it the other version? Okay? Seaming is a way to save fabric. Okay? Alrighty, what we're going to do is start to divide it, and it's not going to be that hard. It's very simple. If we look back on the first page, I'll just read you a little story about gorgeous skirts here. I'll try upside down. A gore is a skirt panel that tapers towards the waistline. Okay, it has to fit the body. Now I'm moving. Okay, that's okay. These are good.
You want this one?
Yeah, I want it. They don't roll the wheels and stuff. It's so it can be shaped. Where's my darts? They're in the seam, right? So now the seams are replacing the darts. We're not going to have both. We're not going to have darts and seams. We're going to move all those darts into those seams. In fact, those seams are referred to as style lines, okay? And also, for my opinion, I call them opportunities, because these seams allow me to get in here and fit and contour around more body types than just the basics. If I have, again, my 9 bridesmaids as my example, and 9 different people that I'm trying to make the same style for the 9 bodies, I'm going to need some help. I'm going to be needing to get in here and fit and maybe expand. This piece could be teeny tiny here, and then this shape may need to go out at varying degrees. It may need to return again, depending on the various body types, the style, etc. Not only that, but you can see I can add features into these seams. Pleats, slits. I love it for piping, contrasting colors. We've seen all the color blocking that's been happening. It's all about this, right? I could have different colors here, different colors there. I could even turn my fabrics. I could have different fabrics. I could have lace, inserted panels, etc., etc. Limited only by your imagination and the designer's creativity. So this provides us, again, opportunities, some flexibility to our craft. You can see that if I extend these down, how a mermaid dress, for example, might start to develop, right? Because what's that? That's, again, these panels with varying degrees of flare added. So we have a progression. We start in the front with a little bit, and it builds and builds to the back. And you could see how we could eventually build a train, a gown, you know, a big, huge ball gown, or even not such a big, huge ball gown. Could be fitted all the way down, and then just mermaid out, and trains and detachable things and attachable things and all kinds of things, okay? So these basic techniques are so important. I don't know, did I say enough about that? I'm tired. Okay, but I do want you to look at this little four-gore thing on page 249. Four-gore. Let's have a close look. We'll frame this up. What's going on? We framed it up. They put a little bit of hem. That's what we do. What's changed from this four-gore skirt to what I'm looking at here today, my usual plot and plan for skirts?
We ended up with this one done according to the pattern.
Well, we could do that. We can use one to get flare, or now we can use 2. We said that that's okay. Really, people, if you look closely here, these pieces represent how much of my total skirt. That's the back one. That's
pieces.
two. One for one side, one for the other. So that's two there for that. So, and this one is also two. So that's a 4 pieces, each one representing a quarter of my total skirt circumference, right? Okay, so that's clear. All I have to do here to turn these into gores, as opposed to what I saw maybe in my little A-line skirt, which is way back here. This guy we did, to this guy is what? What's the little subtle difference?
You add seam allowances.
That's what it is, exactly. It's just to
Yeah.
change the grain. So I don't really want to do that one, because I'm going to waste the draft, should I?
No, what do you mean by change the grain?
Okay, so usually on my front, look at this one.
Oh.
I look at that, I analyze that sketch, and it tells me which grain line I should put on my center front piece. Right? And I always start with that one, because that one then tells me that if I have the center front on the fold, that I should maybe think about putting the zipper center back, maybe side seams or whatever. Okay, so that tells me something about the back piece. Okay? If I wanted a design that added the front on the fold and the back on the fold, what would that tell me?
Side zipless.
Side zipper, okay, tells me that much at least, okay? And I may not know anything about pattern making, but it's a lot, okay? And it's really looking at a sketch and analyzing and understanding. So when we look at this sketch, all we're doing here is cut 2 of the back and cut 2 of the front, gives me
4 gores.
4 gores. That's all it is that one little seam right down the middle on the front, and that's where you were going with all of that. Yeah, trust me. You didn't know it, but you were on your way.
Question.
Mm.
So if it's gonna be 4 gores,
Yeah,
then are they gonna be gathered at the top?
no. Why should they be gathered? If I look at this sketch, I see a little dart remaining, or what?
Oh, okay.
I could eliminate both those darts, could I not?
Yes.
Yes, I could. Don't want to waste a draft just to add a seam allowance onto the center front for this one. I'm going to move on today to the next one, which is a 6 gore skirt, which I think is more important than the 4 gore, okay? And rarely do we see the stinky 4 gore anyways. It's not really a big thing. It's a good thing, I guess, in evening wear. If I want to take those pieces and put them on a bias, I might do something like that. But in terms of fashion, unless I have a zipper, I was thinking about that back in the day, my white leather skirt with the zipper up the front. Where have those days gone? Anyways. And so it was okay. It was rock and roll. It was a reason for that seam up the front. What we're going to talk about today is again beginning to divide it vertically. These gores are also interchangeable with the term panel. So they're long, narrow pieces. They're vertical down my garment and my skirts, okay, and they're referred to as gores or panels. The basic 6 gore skirt has 3 panels in the front and 3 panels in the back. That's all you have to know. Let's go to our draft. Having said that, I'm going to look at this, and I'm going to look at my example, and right away what I want to do as I get in here is think about that length. How long is that skirt? This one.
That was 25